Little Rock, Arkansas is far more than just its geographical boundaries or political history. It's this fascinating, almost unbelievable nexus of violent history, eerie phenomena, and incredibly bizarre roadside culture. It's a city where the past doesn't just inform the present, it literally and figuratively haunts it. Okay, let's dive into this by looking at how the city's intense history is physically baked right into its buildings. Take the Hornibrook Mansion, for example. It was built back in 1888 entirely out of spite. Seriously, a wealthy saloon owner was shunned by local high society, so he retaliated by constructing the most extravagant, towering home in the entire state just to overshadow his neighbors. He even built a hidden poker room into it just to evade the police. Or look at Current Hall, an 1840s historic structure. The paranormal activity there got so intense that a 19th century resident actually painted his entire kitchen pitch black. Why? Because the dark walls made it easier for him to see the glowing white silhouette of the resident ghost. I mean, wow. So here is our roadmap for today's explainer. First up, specters of the Capitol. Then, cryptids and cosmic visitors. Third, a legacy of real horror. Fourth, nature's wrath and ruin. And finally, embracing the bizarre.
Section 1. Specters of the Capitol. Historic haunts.
Let's start with the sheer localized trauma of the Old State House Museum. It's the oldest standing state capitol building west of the Mississippi. Paranormal investigators have recorded some genuinely chilling audio in there, including a very distinct 1800s whisper saying, "No, the war is not over." And honestly, that makes terrifying sense when you dig into the building's history. Back in 1837, right on the House of Representatives floor, Speaker John Wilson took offense to a joke during a debate. He pulled out a Bowie knife and literally stabbed Representative Joseph Anthony to death in a brutal, bloody duel. It's like the echoes of that violence literally never left the room. Which brings us right back to the Hornibrook Mansion, which today operates as the Empress of Little Rock Bed and Breakfast. The Empress boasts a staggering cast of reported entities. You've got a spectral sea captain wandering the halls of a completely landlocked city, a lady in pink, and an apparition of a maid who vanishes the second you acknowledge her. But the absolute most terrifying incident, that happened during a 1990s restoration. A painter was working in that secret, spite-built poker room I mentioned earlier. Suddenly, the heavy door slammed shut, trapping him inside a room that had absolutely no handle or locking hardware installed yet. When he finally managed to pry himself out, he returned moments later to find the door wide open, and the top-hatted apparition of James Hornibrook staring directly at him before dissolving into thin air. Absolutely wild. And the hauntings aren't just indoors. This is Mount Holly Cemetery, often called the Westminster Abbey of Arkansas. When the city was expanding, hundreds of early burials were dug up and relocated here. According to local folklore, disturbing those bodies severely disrupted the spirits. Now, witnesses report seeing elaborate, Victorian-carved angels subtly shifting positions at night. Locals living on the perimeter sometimes wake up to find cemetery statues mysteriously resting on their front lawns, with absolutely no footprints around them. Add in reports of wandering Native American mists and phantom pre-dawn flute music, and you've got yourself a heavily active supernatural site. Section 2. Cryptids and Cosmic UFOs. Arkansas Anomalies. Let's move to the skies and see how this builds, because Arkansas is actually a documented hotspot for UFOs, with an incredible timeline of aerial anomalies. It started way back in 1897 during the Great Airship Wave. A railroad conductor claimed he stumbled upon a massive metallic craft and actually spoke to the pilot before it shot up into the sky. Fast forward to the 1960s, and the area had so many mass sightings that the Air Force's official Project Blue Book had to step in to investigate. And this isn't just ancient history either. Modern drivers on Interstate 67 still report a massive, silent, triangular craft with hovering green lights actively tracking their vehicles. Down on the ground, the region boasts a massive footprint in cryptozoology. There's a really stark contrast between the area's two biggest local legends. On one hand, we have the Fook monster, famously known as the Beast of Boggy Creek. This is a terrifying, highly aggressive 7-foot ape that allegedly attacked a family home in 1971, scratching at porches and reaching through windows. On the other hand, we have the White River monster, affectionately known as Whitey. Whitey is a massive, serpentine aquatic beast. But here's the amazing part. Sighting waves grew so intense in the 1970s that the Arkansas state legislature officially stepped in and created a legally protected sanctuary for the monster. It is strictly illegal to harm or harass the scripted. How amazing is that? Section 3. legacy of real horror, true crime history. Shifting to a more sobering reality, 3 separate, genuinely terrifying cases have left a permanent mark on the region. Between 2020 and 2021, an unidentified attacker known as the Little Rock Slasher ambushed pedestrians, a case that remains an active FBI investigation with a substantial reward. During that exact same time frame, a juvenile named Frederick Jackson committed a series of random ambush shootings, eventually pleading guilty to 4 homicides. And perhaps most chillingly, Samuel Little, confirmed by the FBI as the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history, frequented the Little Rock metro area during his decades-long spree. Before his death, he confessed to dumping victims in the local marshes, closing cold cases that had remained unsolved for nearly 30 years.
Section 4. Nature's Wrath and Ruin. Disasters in Little Rock.
Think about the number 30,000. That number represents a massive ecological crisis for the area. 30,000 barrels of highly toxic waste, including Agent Orange and dioxin, were simply abandoned by chemical companies in nearby Jacksonville. Decades of improper handling resulted in dangerous toxins leaching directly into the soil and the groundwater. It forced the EPA to designate the location as one of the highest priority Superfund sites in the entire United States. The contamination was so widespread it necessitated an 80-mile ban on commercial fishing.
165. That was the miles per hour of the devastating winds during the historic March 2023 tornado. This high-end EF3 tornado tore a destructive path straight through the heavily populated heart of the Little Rock metropolitan area. And it didn't just destroy thousands of homes and businesses, it completely leveled mature urban forest canopies across multiple city parks, instantly altering the visual and ecological landscape of the city.
Water has also radically transformed Little Rock. Back in 1978, a stationary storm dumped up to 15 inches of rain in a single afternoon. The city's drainage infrastructure completely failed, turning streets into raging rivers that tragically drowned 10 people. Decades earlier, the Great Mississippi River flood of 1927 caused the Arkansas River to crest at historic levels, submerging North Little Rock under 5 feet of rushing water. These weren't just tragic events, they were major catalysts that permanently forced the construction of massive flood walls, pumping stations, and completely overhauled stormwater management systems that define the city's layout today.
Section 5. Embracing the Bizarre. Quirks of Little Rock. So what does this all mean? How does a community actually process a history built on spite, spectral trauma, and catastrophic disasters? Well, Little Rock has seamlessly transformed its darkest moments into highly organized public entertainment. Remember that old State House museum where the politician was stabbed to death with a Bowie knife? The city literally opens its doors after hours for Ghost Hunting 101 classes right on that exact spot. And at Mount Holly Cemetery, where all those uprooted graves are, local high school drama students dress in period costumes every October. They stand directly on top of the graves to perform theatrical monologues detailing exactly how the people buried beneath them died. And this brilliantly illustrates a fascinating psychological coping mechanism, doesn't it? This embrace of the absurd extends directly into their roadside culture, too. If you head down to the Flying Fish restaurant downtown, you will find the world's premier Big Mouth Billy Bass Adoption Center. When people got sick of those motion-activated singing fish toys in the 90s, the restaurant created a sanctuary. The walls are covered in hundreds of rubber fish, and the process is hilariously bureaucratic. You donate your singing fish, you fill out official adoption papers, you name the fish, and in return, you get a basket of free catfish. It is a wonderfully lighthearted palate cleanser. Little Rock is fiercely proud of its eccentricities. Locals adamantly maintain the cheese dip was invented right there in 1935. In 2016, they even won a blind taste test in the U.S. Senate, defeating the state of Texas. That victory remains a massive point of civic pride. The city also features the only brick-and-mortar museum in the U.S. dedicated entirely to women's purses, the world's largest musical Tesla coil that plays songs using 200,000 volts of artificial lightning, and the literal Little Rock the city is named after, which, ironically, is only about the size of a large office desk. Which leaves us with this final thought. A city's identity isn't just defined by its dark past, its architectural spite, or the natural disasters that level its trees. It's defined by how the people actively and wonderfully choose to live alongside those ghosts. Because honestly, if you lived in a city built on top of specters, cryptids, and shifting statues, wouldn't you need a singing fish and a champion bowl of cheese dip to get you through the day too? Thank